I'm glad that that was at least somewhat sentimental to you.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossafari. Hello, and welcome to the episode that is basically the roast of John and Zoe Rossi, a very special episode of the Rossafari podcast. Y'all, I love talking to different people who do different things at zoos and conservation organizations and aquariums and such. And while a whole lot of my focus is always on the keepers and vets and management staff and all of that, every once in a while I get to interview somebody who has worked in a different position and does a different thing at the zoo. And, you know, I think that's really important because I think it shows more of the complete picture of, you know, what's going on at a zoo. I also think it's important because I think it's really cool to see how connected to the animals everyone at the zoo is, even the people that aren't keeper staff. I will never not love my episode with Colleen from the Akron Zoo where, she is working there in the gift shop doing the buying and stuff. And also can tell you about like every animal at the zoo and is just in love with the place. And I just think that kind of thing is really cool and really special. And speaking of really cool and really special, most of you already know this, but I got married this year. We actually, Zoe and I got married at Elmwood Park Zoo, our home zoo, our heart zoo, a place that we just love very much. So you take those two things and put them together. And of course, as I was leaving the wedding that day, I looked at the person who had been planning it with us and working on it with us and said, "Hey, Becky, you should be on my podcast." Or I forget. Maybe I thought that and emailed her afterwards. I don't know. My memory is cloudy. It was a big day, y'all. But anyway, the point is that I reached out to Becky and I was like, "Hey, I want you on the Rossafari podcast to talk about your job and talk about doing events at the zoo, but also to talk about what it was like working with a couple who was, let's just say, pretty unique when it came to wedding planning." I don't want to give anything that's in the episode away, but it was a journey. And so this episode is a little bit of a holiday gift to all of you because it's a great episode. We talk a lot about what doing events at zoos is like. We talk about some of the great animals at Elmwood Park Zoo and some of them that featured into my wedding and such. So, there's all that good stuff. But also, I told Becky to be completely honest about what it was like putting up with me, really, and Zoe. So she very much was. So before we get to the interview, a quick reminder that it is always helpful if you leave a rating and review for the podcast wherever you listen. Also, you can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossafari. Patrons get bonus audio from some of the episodes, including this one. So that's pretty exciting. Yay, bonus audio. And also make sure you're following along on all the social medias at Rossafari, on TikTok at Rossafari Pod, all of those things. But enough of me blathering on here. Let me go blather on in an interview with somebody else. You're going to get a lot of laughs. You're going to get a lot of fun, and you're going to get a really interesting look on what domestic life is like with John and Zoe Rossi. So enjoy my interview with Becky Bell, the event manager at Elmwood Park Zoo. All right, so let's start off with the traditional intro. Tell me who you are, where you work, and what you do here.
I am Becky Bell. I work at the Elmwood Park Zoo, Woo! And I am their event manager.
Yeah. And so event manager, what exactly are the duties involved with that title?
So I plan the weddings, the private events. So anything that's a private rental coming into the zoo, I would take care of. So me and my team would take care of that. So planning all of the details, anything leading up to day of coordination is all handled by myself.
Yeah, including, I don't know, my wedding?
Yes, your wedding was in there.
Yes, and we will be discussing that, which will be, I'm sure, hilarious at times. But so I'm curious, you said just private rental stuff, right?
Correct.
So how much overlap is there with teams that do things like wild lights and that kind of stuff? Or,
Tons.
Tons? Okay.
Tons, yeah. So my department works with every other department in the zoo, which is pretty cool. Very heavily with like guest services. They're the ones that staff our private events. So I work with them very closely. Anytime there's animal encounters, giraffe feedings, things like that. So I'm working with keepers, with our education staff too.
Very cool. And so the reason I ask is like right now I'm here and it's Christmassy time and there's the wild lights thing going on. Mm-hmm. But y'all have a couple of different types of events like that. And in October, what was your big event?
So they did Boo at the Zoo in October. So trick or treat nights and fun things for the kids. That's all handled by guest services.
Right.
So anything public facing that you purchase a ticket to come to, that would be our guest services team handles that.
But let's talk about why you need to coordinate with them so much in terms of specifically, I don't know, a wedding story you might be able to share about, say, a couple who, I don't know, was getting married at the Eagle Deck. And there was something in the background the night before.
Oh, there sure was.
Yeah. So go ahead and share that story because I think it's such a great example of how this coordination needs to take place.
Yes. So our Boo at the Zoo, they do a fantastic job, decorate the whole zoo, Halloween decorations, fall decorations everywhere. And one of the things that they did this year was having, as soon as you walk into the zoo, there is a huge inflatable gorilla. I mean, huge. This thing was gigantic. And I have your wedding coming in and it's inflated and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, they didn't care too much about a lot of the details, but I have a feeling they will care about this detail. So calling guest services and telling them, hey, I don't think the wedding today will appreciate the giant gorilla right behind them during their ceremony. So getting them to come in and deflate said gorilla and make it look nice and pretty for you guys.
So one of the things that we did was the 2 days before our wedding, we had Zoe's parents and then my parents got to come and meet the otters here. We did like the otter feeding things, right?
Lynn told me that.
Yeah. Yep. And it was so much fun and it was really cool. And otters are my dad's favorite animal. So he'd never gotten to meet them before. So it was like a really big deal. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and of course, Rocky and Piper are the best otters.
Yes,
so obviously, but yeah, so I remember that when Lynn and Chris came, Zoe's parents, they were kind of like, oh, there's this thing, but it's like 2 days away. And then when my parents came, because we came to the zoo at the same time, like we were part of it, and we all walked in and we all did a complete stop. I mean, it was literally directly behind where we were getting married, the center of like the arch. And it was like something out of a movie. We all just... instant record scratch. Just
you weren't the only ones that would come in and they're like, that won't be here, right? I'm like, no, it won't be there. We'll move it.
It was, like you said, we were not, and we'll talk about this more, but we were not the most obsessive planners, to put it mildly.
Correct.
But it was really funny to me because both of us, as well as my parents, were just like, oh God. And that night, that was like, it came up like 100 times. I think everyone who was we didn't even do a rehearsal, as you know, but we had a rehearsal dinner anyway.
Yes.
And it was just more like a little party. But everyone who was at that party, I guarantee you, heard about the fact that there might be a giant gorilla the next day.
Oh, no.
And I'm not going to lie, there's part of me that wishes it had been up. Just because those photos would be hilarious.
Darn.
I'm actually glad it's not. But there's that like small part of me that is like, can you freaking imagine?
What a funny story. And all of those pictures to put everywhere. And people are like, why do you have a gorilla behind you? Like, why is that?
Yep. It would be very on brand for us, to be fair. So,
yes.
Yeah.
But I figured that would be the one thing that you guys would not want.
You did very well.
Ceremony.
It was on my mind the whole time I was walking up to the gate.
Oh gosh.
Like, because I was not nervous about wedding, marriage, life choices. I was as chill as you can be. But but that was the one thing. Hey, there are radios.
Hi. Yes. Hey, there's a
Turn them all
They're
off.
gonna go
This
off
is hilarious.
the whole time. And they're usually off. I have mine on, but I can turn him way down.
Cool.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. No worries. It's just funny that we're
joys
doing an interview in a room with nine
radios.
Yeah, 9 radios. Yeah. Normally I would cut it, but actually I think that's hilarious and just
great.
part of Zoo.
Cool.
So,
It is. That is part of everyday life here. So,
Cool. So, all right. So how did you get into this? What's your background, education, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So I originally wanted to be a forensic scientist.
Nailed it.
Yeah, really the same. So I quickly discovered that wasn't going to be career path for me. And I was at a loss of what to do. Since I was like 8, I was like, forensic science. Didn't happen, clearly. So I was watching TV, and there was this show on the TLC channel, I think it was. And it was called like 4 Weddings, and it was a competition. And whoever had the best wedding got a honeymoon for free.
Sweet.
So when they interviewed like people during the show, one of the guys they interviewed, his occupation said wedding planner. And I'm like, what? You can do that? Like, that's a job? Like, I had no idea. So I'm grabbing my mom and I'm like, what is this? Do you know how to do you know anything about this? And she's like, no. So we're Googling, we're like looking up all this stuff, found hospitality, found that this is a career that there's tons of things you can do in it, and discovered Widener University. So I went there, graduated there. It was the last graduating class with hospitality management. So that was pretty cool. But graduated from there and started working at a hotel out in Concordville, PA. And then I worked at another hotel in Chester County. And I was just looking for something different since I've done the hotel restaurant kind of scene, and I just wanted to mix it up. And I had no idea that this existed. And Google search led me to Elmwood Park Zoo, and they were hiring. And I said, well, why not? This sounds like such a fun job. And I love doing weddings and planning events. And who wouldn't want to do it at a zoo? And that's so cool. So I applied, and here I am, 1.5 years later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of people don't think of zoos as having these kinds of events. One of the big questions that I got asked when I was telling people like, oh yeah, getting married at a zoo was like, I get it. Because of Ross Safari, like they're letting you do this. I was like, oh no. I mean, we have connections there, which is cool, but that didn't help at all. We were like, hi, we'd like to do the thing.
Yeah.
And you were like, cool, I don't know you, but here are the packages.
Yeah.
Like at first you were literally like, you mean nothing to me. But
No,
I'm kidding.
I did not know who you were, and then I discovered connections.
Yeah, no, of course.
Stuff,
yeah, it's just it was really funny because I do remember I said to Zoe, I was like, we have connections at every damn department at the zoo except for the one that we need right now.
Well, now you do.
Now we do
for future. Yeah,
and now I have forced you onto my podcast.
Yes,
so.
you have.
So were you like into animals at all? Like even just in like a casual way, whatever.
Yeah, always loved animals. My now husband and we're trying to hit every state in the United States. And one of the things is I always drag him to zoos.
Nice.
Not that he hates it,
nice.
But I'm like, every time I'm like, where's the closest zoo? Like we have to go. So we were just on our honeymoon in Hawaii, and I was like, we need to see the Honolulu Zoo.
Yes.
That's like one of the things. And we did. So I'm always doing that. I love animals. So being able to work at a zoo and coming to one every single day is like the coolest thing.
Yeah, no, very much so. That's cool. That's kind of how I got my start. So, I'm a touring musician, and as I tour around the country, I would go to zoos. And that was my big thing. And now I've hit over 170 facilities between zoos and aquariums and stuff. And I started talking to keepers, and I was like, wow, they're all awesome. And long story short, led to me launching this podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
And and I still I just booked a gig out in California early next year. And I'm already debating whether I'm going to drive back across the country. I did it last year at the start of the year, but take a different route so I can go to different zoos, including some I haven't made it to yet. And
you should. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very cool. So what is your favorite animal here?
Oh, that's hard. So I have 2 that I'm quite fond of.
Okay.
the peccaries.
Yes.
Because they're so cute. They're weird little things, but they're the cutest things ever.
Can you like describe what peccaries are? Like, I feel like a lot of people don't know.
No, I don't know what they are, which is horrible, but I love them.
No, I get that.
Always come over and I talk to them and like it's so strange. I probably look like the crazy person since I have nothing to do with the animals here. And I'm like, oh my God, hi. But I always say hi to them and the otters.
Yes.
I could stand there literally all day and watch them just sleep even.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just the cutest little things. So it's a toss up between the peccaries and the otters.
Fair. Peccaries are amazing and weird and not something you see at a ton of zoos,
No.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
They look like their little legs should not support them.
No, they
Right?
don't. That's
Like-
why they're so weird. Like they're furry, like pig looking things with these huge bodies and these tiny little legs and the cutest little snouts. And they're so adorable, but they're so strange.
This is so real. Yeah, this is very real. Were you here when Piper first arrived?
No,
Oh, goodness. Do you know the story?
I do not know
Okay,
this story.
so I'm not going to tell the whole thing now. I'm
Okay.
just going to refer you
Okay.
to my Unexpected Otter episode with one of your colleagues here.
Okay.
Because honestly, the story of Piper
Yeah.
is amazing.
Okay.
She's a rock star, and I'll just leave it at that for now. But go.
All right.
I know you've been listening, so
Yes,
go
I
check
have.
that one out. It's
Okay,
like
I
an
will.
early episode.
Perfect.
And everyone listening, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is possibly the cutest story you'll ever hear about an otter. So yeah,
okay,
it's
great.
a good one. But yeah, so all right, let's move away from animals for a minute here.
Okay.
And talk about some of the job stuff, and especially weddings, because weddings are known for being like joyous, but they can also be like wildly stressful.
Yeah.
And there is the stereotype of the bridezilla or groomzilla. We don't want to be, sexist here. And so I'm curious if you like encounter a lot of that, and like also just how you help people deal with stress in general.
Yeah. So thankfully not. I've had some that are pretty stressed out. But I think we do so much here as far as the planning and really helping with a lot of that, having the ceremony and the reception and the caterer all working, with the same person. Alleviates a lot of that stress. Now, if it's, personal matters at home, I can't help if you're fighting with your mother-in-law or soon to be mother-in-law. I can't help with that. I can listen to you complain, if you need to. But as far as like planning here, I thankfully don't run into a lot of that. So everybody handles wedding planning in their own way. So I hate bridezilla and groomzilla. I know that's what everybody says.
That was a TV show.
It's-
The bridezilla one.
The bridezilla, that was a thing for sure. But they're stressed out. So I hate using that. I don't ever call somebody that. Like I wouldn't say like, "Oh, John, you're being such a groomzilla." That's so negative, and I don't like it. Everybody's just really, they handle wedding planning in their own ways. Like you and Zoe were not stressed at all. At all with anything. But others will be so stressed out over what might seem like such a small detail to some other people. So I try not to take it personally, if they are stressed and if they do have a moment where they're just releasing all of that stress out. So I try not to take it personally and just do my best to alleviate that. So if I had one couple where they miscounted the centerpieces when they brought them to the zoo. So they had, I think it was 15 tables, and they brought me 14 centerpieces. And they lived an hour away, so they could. It's not like you can just run back home real quick and grab the other one. So we made do. And that was a little bit of a freak out moment. And that was a stressful moment for them. Whereas you guys didn't care at all about centerpieces. But for these guys, that was, a focal point of the room, and missing one was not ideal. But we were able to cobble together items that I hoard that people leave behind and they don't want it, and I hoard everything. And we were able to create a centerpiece that looked almost identical to the ones that they had. So
That's
it was
amazing.
like coming into it and just trying to, problem solve and alleviate that moment of, oh my gosh, it's not working. This is wrong, something like that. So that's kind of what I do. Not all the time, but that's
Right.
a little bit of what I do to help alleviate any sort of stress or chaoticness that arises.
That makes sense. And I suppose that if they do, let that stress out on you, you could always just go hang out with otters and peccaries and
For
stuff.
sure, yeah.
That's gotta help.
If they're, if they're releasing that and I am the person they're releasing it on, that's okay. Again, it's not personal. It's the situation they're mad at. They're not mad at me. And that's okay. So, but yes, if I'm like, well, that was a lot, I'm going to go take a walk around the zoo and I'm going to go visit my favorite animals here. But couples that come here are just, I joke with my other friends who are wedding planners and stuff. I'm like, they're a different breed of people. Like they're so happy. And I feel like when you get people who are really into animals and they're having their wedding at a zoo, they're not really the type to freak out over details and things that maybe some other couples would. So,
which is a really good transition to me asking you what it was like to work with Zoe and I. And look, I want to be like, I'm very open and honest with my audience. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that even for a place where you maybe don't get traditional couples in the bridezilla, groomzilla sense, I know that we relax as hell. Okay.
Oh, you sure were.
I'm aware. And I'm honestly curious what that was like for you. And like, tell people and tell me, because I'm curious what it was like dealing with us compared to dealing with normal people.
Well, it was, I've had others that were lax, on a lot of things. You were the most lax I've ever had.
Good.
Which stressed me out more, I think, because I was like, oh my God, like some people will say they don't care about something and then they see it and then they care. So sometimes it's just like you need to actually physically see something to understand or, get the idea of it. So I'm like, oh God, like when I was trying to do details with you and like you had no answers or it was very just like, nonchalant kind of thing. I'm like, oh my God, what if I do it wrong and they're unhappy? And like, it just added all this extra pressure.
Meanwhile, I thought it was going to be like I was like, she's got to love this. The fact that I'm like, I don't care, do whatever I thought that would help.
No, maybe other planners love that. I was like, no, I need you to tell me what you like and then I can make that happen. So like when you came in to the exhibit, and because you had no centerpieces, which is not a big deal. That's fine. And I was like, well, centerpieces would be nice. So I had talked to you guys. I was like, I have some stuff that I can use. You only had, 4 tables. Yeah. I can work with that. And you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I'm like, all morning I'm stressing out. I'm trying to make sure that it's like perfect. And you walked in. I was like, what do you think? And you were like, about what? And I'm like, okay.
To be fair, there's a reason. To be fair, there is a reason I said about what.
Yeah.
Which is that I walked into, you have to picture this, okay? We had our reception in the Trail of the Jaguar exhibit, okay? I walked in and there was a mountain lion at the glass. I did not see a human or a table or anything. I went to the glass. I was the only person at the zoo. My future mother-in-law and I were the only people at the zoo. And I went to the glass and had some private time with a mountain lion. And I literally remember, because I was going to bring this up if you didn't. You said, what do you think? And I was like, I know these cats. They're great. I'm excited they're here. I literally thought you were asking me like what I thought about the fact that there was a mountain lion there for a second. Never crossed my mind. And then I turned and I was like, oh, there are tables here.
Yes.
Oh, this is nice.
For your reception.
And you put up this big like column thing and you were like, what do you think of the column? And I'm like, I don't know, what column? Oh, is that not normally here? Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
It's time for interrupting John.
Okay, y'all. So I just need to follow this story up by telling you that after I recorded this, actually, Zoe and I and our friend Becca, who was one of the bridesmaids at the wedding, went and grabbed dinner, and we were just chatting about things. And Becca mentioned how cute the centerpieces were at our wedding. And Zoe, not sarcastically, literally turned and said, we had centerpieces. So it wasn't just me. I just needed to point that out. But Becca was quite impressed by them and thought they were quite beautiful. So, I mean, clearly Becky did a good job. And some people even, realized that fact. Anyway, back to the interview. Y'all, I wish you could see Becky's face right now. You can hear it in her voice, but it's there more on her face.
I'm not good at hiding my facial expressions at all.
See, and I didn't even register that day because I wasn't looking at you because there were mountain lions.
Yeah. Fair. That's fair. I should have known. Yeah. If you're picking that place for your reception, that would be more important, but you did like it. The setup and everything.
No, okay, so let me be really clear.
That was good.
It was beautiful.
Oh, good.
We felt wonderful.
Okay.
All of the pictures from it are lovely. It was the thing that you locked into, and to stop joking around for a moment, although nothing we've said is a joke, this is all true.
Yeah.
But you really did catch our vibe.
Oh,
it had
good.
a really chill
perfect
feel
Love
to it.
that.
It was not overdone.
Yeah.
It was not stodgy or anything like that. Your centerpieces were nice and fine and added to, like, they definitely added to the look. That being said, we just didn't care. We didn't know that would make it nicer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
but
fine.
You did, and that is why you are awesome at what you do. Like, that just shows that you're good at, you did the thing.
Thanks.
And we appreciate it. We really did. Like, there was a moment where, all of the animals had calmed down a little bit, and we kind of looked around and we're like, oh, this is really pretty. And then we got more animal time.
Good.
So that was more important. But yeah.
That's fine. I knew that going into it.
Yeah, no, you did do, all joking aside, we are appreciative and thank you for making it so beautiful. But we would have been fine with 4 picnic tables thrown in there.
I know you would
with
have.
Still with bird poop on them.
No, that can't happen. I won't let that happen.
So speaking of that, I have a funny story to tell you that has nothing to do with your side of things. But, we did draft feedings for everyone.
Uh-huh.
And for those listening, there is a giraffe here named Gerald who drools so badly. But he is the giraffe. He is the best boy. And so we go up to do our feeding after the ceremony and before the reception. And Gerald very enthusiastically comes over to me and takes some food and drools on my jacket.
Nice.
Right? Now, first of all, as you can imagine, I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
We did not rent tuxes or anything. Like, I was in a suit, and Zoe had a very nice dress, but it wasn't an all white wedding type dress. We did our thing.
You did.
And so Gerald drooled on me, and I was so happy. I was like, this is such a great souvenir because I love Gerald. I've always loved Gerald. After COVID, when they were starting to do draft feedings again, Zoe and I were invited to come here before y'all reopened that part to feed drafts to get them used to it again. We were some of the people that did that.
Nice.
And they gave us not the usual 2 or 3 pieces of lettuce, but here are some heads of lettuce. Feed our drafts. We need to make sure everything's back to normal.
Right.
And Gerald spent a lot of time with me then. So I feel very close to Gerald. It was it was a really cute moment that it was Gerald, that he drooled on me, and it was it was us, it's again, just, a veterinarian and an animal podcaster doing the thing. And it was just so on brand. And I remember as our friends started coming up, a lot of the people that are in the wedding party and stuff are also, vets or zoo people or whatever. And everyone was kind of like, oh, John. And I was like, and I just would point at their after oh, that's so cool. And then my cousin and her husband came up, and they are great people, but they're not this world. We love each other very much. And her husband is such a nice guy, but he's also very classic, right?
Okay.
And he walked up to me and he's like, oh, that's unacceptable. I got you. And wiped it off. And it was a sweet thing where it was such a nice thing for him to do. And I knew that him getting giraffe drool on his bare hand was a big deal to him. That is the grossest animal encounter he's ever had. That is his poop story.
Poop story. Got it.
You know what I mean?
Got it, yes.
With that being said, I just remember I was like,
no, I wanted it there. It was fine.
I was referring to it as my drool boutonniere.
Oh. At least it happened, though.
No, it did. And it was also one of those things where it was such a sweet thing for Chris to do. That was such a nice moment.
That is.
But I just remember thinking oh yeah, this is my world's colliding a little bit. And all of my zoo people were makes sense.
Yeah.
And this dude was I am taking care of you. They were both being very loving, both sides.
They were.
But just in their own
way. That is
way.
so funny.
Oh, man. Oh, Gerald. Isn't Gerald the best, though?
He's so cute.
So, in the planning phase, I mean, we're talking about how it was not particularly guided by us, but like, tell me what it would be like when you would get an email from us. Honestly, like, you would send us stuff, and you are so detailed.
Oh, thank you. I try.
Paragraphs of information.
I try.
And I respond with like, yeah, we're cool with whatever.
Yes,
like,
your answers, I was like, I don't know if he genuinely doesn't care. Is he being sarcastic? I'm unsure. That was pretty much every single time. And until like we really started going back and forth.
Right.
And then I was like, no, I got it. Like I get you. So like that was fine. But in the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, like this, is he sure he wants to get married here? It was just like, okay, like you really don't care. All right, that's fine. Again, stressed me out more. It's okay. It was great.
Good. Fair enough. And yeah, I remember distinctly there was a moment when I was like, I wonder if we're causing her agita. And it was because you sent me, you sent us a choice of napkin colors.
Yes.
It was that specific question.
Okay.
And I remember that you sent it, and we happened to be sitting together, and we got it, and we popped it open, and Zoe was like, what the hell is this? There are like 1,000. I was like, there aren't even this many colors. What is this? And we looked at each other, and my favorite color is purple, and her favorite color is orange.
Okay.
And we knew that both were already represented, in the wedding.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other, and I was like, do they have teal? Because one of our dogs, Paradiddle, when she was a puppy, in her litter, they all had different color, strings around them, and she was teal. So we've always known her as Teal is like
Cute.
one of her nicknames.
Yeah.
And I was like, is there teal? And she's like, there's teal. And I was like, great. And I remember I responded in like 5 seconds, and I was like, teal. And I think you even responded, were like, are you sure? Or something like that. And I was like, yeah, teal. Like, who cares what color this is the most thought we've put into it. And it was 5 seconds. Oh,
care.
I'm aware.
So I was like, okay, that was really fast. All right. Got it.
We never even flipped through the whole thing. I don't even know what all the colors are.
Cool. That's fine. That's
but like,
okay.
at least just so you know, it did have like a meaning though.
I'm glad
Yes.
that was at least somewhat sentimental.
Well, and that was the thing. All of the choices that we did make were sentimental and important.
Okay, good.
And all of the ones that we didn't make were very specifically because that wasn't what the wedding was about for us.
Yeah.
We wanted it to represent us, but also like there just aren't centerpieces that represent us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
we could
fine.
make some like, $40, $50 per table cheetah and red panda sitting next to each other with a heart over them thing.
Yeah.
But like, we don't do that kind of thing.
Right.
My mother-in-law came up with the idea of having Legos at each table kind of around the centerpieces that people could play with. That's because we really like Legos. And then also my son got to like take the Legos home.
Yes.
You know?
I figured there was a connection with your son with that.
Yeah, but that actually came
was
from my
for-
mother-in-law.
Okay.
Because we like Legos.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, Miles and I will go to a Lego store together and each pick out a set and
I
like
love
go
that.
build them. You know what I
But see,
mean?
that's the type of stuff to incorporate that means something. So I can totally see. I mean, I've had other couples that are like centerpieces where like, they're like, Becky, what should we do?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to spend X amount of money. And then what do you do with all of the centerpieces afterwards?
Yeah, exactly.
That's always something.
And it's not even like the money wasn't like an issue or anything. It was literally just the like, oh, centerpieces. Okay, that's something we didn't think about and don't care about. And,
Yeah.
Like you said, what are we going to do with all of
With
that?
them. What
Yeah.
are you going to do with
Yeah.
them? Yeah.
And that's why even with the favors, which we'll talk about in a moment, like we went with not like, they're not favors that say like, John and Zoe 2022,
Yeah.
because I know that I don't like use the flasks that I've been given with other people's names on them. They're nice sentiments, but to me, and you have to just nod because that is your job. But like, I'm not going to carry that.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I have like divorced friends and I have their flasks and I'm like, maybe you need to have a drink from this. I don't know. So we went with like Elmwood Park Zoo stuff and animal stuff.
Which is great. And you're supporting the zoo doing that too, which
was
we
why we
loved
wanted to
so much.
Yeah. And that was Lynn's idea, Zoe's mom's. But what was it like working with Lynn on that? Because she's, distant in terms of not emotionally, but in terms of living in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And I know that like some things were very specific and some things were very not. So like, what was that experience like?
It was Well, she was more specific than you and Zoe, so that was a good start already. I was like, okay, Lynn gets it. We're good.
Ow, that truck just backed up over me again. All right, okay, all right.
No. She was great. But no, she emailed me and she was on our website trying to find the gift shop and look up some products. And we don't have an online store yet. That's in the works. I've been told for future planning. But she emailed me and she, told me she was having trouble, that she wanted to look and see if we had any merchandise that could be used as favors. So I'm like, yeah, we've got some cool stuff over there. So I went over to the store and I took pictures of different things that we had and tried to get all the different animals that are showcased. And then I emailed them to her and gave her pricing for, each item. And she was so sweet. And she's like, this is exactly what I wanted. Thank you so much. And I'm like, you got it. You just let me know. So I had her in touch with our retail manager to kind of coordinate and like hold the product for her so we could send out samples so she could take a look at things. And then it's like, let us know what quantities you want. And then you can come get them when you come to the zoo and we'll take care of everything. So it was very easy to work with her and the whole process was fine. But we loved that you were using stuff from the zoo and that had, all of our logo. Like it was great.
It was really cool. I was recently at my Aunt Sandy's house, who was, one of our guests here. And she had, her Elmwood Park Zoo coffee mug. And it just made me so stinking happy to go to Baltimore and see this. I'm not a person who goes to zoos.
Yeah.
And I was really happy to see that
great.
there. And I was just like, this is really cool. So yeah, plus, like you said, it contributes to the zoo.
It does.
And one of the things that we did, we said, we don't need gifts. If you want to, either give us some money for our honeymoon or make a donation to the zoo. And I know that a couple of our guests did make donations to the zoo.
So our development director had emailed me and asked for your contact information because some of your guests had done that, which was
just
fantastic.
so cool.
Yes,
that just makes me so happy.
For doing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we love, and that's the stuff that we cared about. Although I can see, especially early on, I do see it looks like the hair is growing back pretty well. The hair that you pulled out.
No, it's coming in. I have a bald spot in the back, but I'm sure I'll cover that.
I can sign that for you if you want.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry about that, but I promise you that we truly did care, and it truly was very memorable.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So, moving away from us and just back to the general thing, how much joy does all of this stuff bring to you? Does it become just like a day at the office, or is each wedding magical and special and do your eyes get all sparkly and, and be honest, we all have jobs that we do every day. And even if you're passionate about them, even the zookeepers I talk to who love their animals occasionally are just like, yeah, I'm shoveling poop today. And it is not a day that I want to be shoveling poop.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious.
I think office days, it kind of feels like you're just coming to work. Days of the week where I'm just answering emails, doing paperwork, phone calls, that kind of stuff is very just, I'm coming to work today. When it's actually day of, when the event is happening and I get to coordinate and do all, that's where I have a lot of fun and it doesn't feel like I'm working. I just get to enjoy what I'm doing. So yes and no. So there are days when, the wedding's happening or the event's taking place and I'm in it and you're running around and it's just fun for me. I like that, the chaoticness of it. But when you're coming in and I sit at a computer all day long answering emails or typing up different paperwork, that's where it's just okay, another day at the office, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's fair. That makes a lot of sense. And so what other, we're talking all about weddings, but what other kind of events are you in charge of here? So
we just hired another person for our department who will be taking over baby showers and bridal showers, adult birthday parties and family reunions, that kind of thing. So prior to her coming on board, I did all of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So big corporate events, weddings, and then our smaller social events is what we call them. And then my director takes care of big buyouts where there's 1,000 people coming to the zoo. So really large corporate events is what she'll take care of. But we do we do a ton of different things here, which is so cool. And it's another reason why I really like working here is because there's the variety of events that can take place. So we've had corporate clients that will do the zip line. I don't know if you guys have done that.
Not yet, no.
It's terrifying.
No.
It's fun, but it's terrifying. Discovered that I don't like heights
Interesting.
because of doing that. So
Good to
fun.
know. Good to know.
Good to know. But we've had corporate clients that will do like a team building and do the zip lining together and then do a happy hour down at Zoo Brew. And then you turn around and your next event is a baby shower. And then your next one is a family reunion that hasn't seen each other in 10 years. So it's really cool, like just the different variety of things that can take place here. But yeah, we do all of that. So that's all like my department.
That's awesome. I can't believe that it's such, like, I mean, look, I love Elmwood Park Zoo. This is like my home zoo. Everybody who listens knows that.
Yeah.
But like, it's a small zoo.
It is.
It's going to be growing. This is really exciting stuff.
Very excited.
But I can't believe that y'all have a 3-person team that can make their livings doing this thing. It's such a big deal, I guess.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is. We do, just weddings alone, we do like 40 a year.
Okay.
Wow.
But
yeah, so that's even a lot. I would think for a smaller facility like this.
I mean, that's almost every week. You cut out some of the big holiday ones, and that's amazing.
So we pack it all into a small amount of time, but it's great. But year round, like 1,000, like we do like a crazy amount. There's another team member who will handle the kids' birthday parties.
Oh, wow.
So there's 4 of us in total. So she'll do like big school trips that come to the zoo. She'll do the kids' birthday parties that are like your typical pizza, cupcake, pavilion rental type thing. But she takes care of all of that. And then we have social, and I do wedding, and Jane does corporate. So it's really neat just to see all of the stuff that takes place here.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think when we first talked about doing like the wedding here, we almost literally were picturing doing like a kid's birthday party with like pizza and cupcakes, but we fixed it. I literally think that the thing that happened was just we saw that trail was available.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, that changes everything.
Let's do that.
And then once you sent the food stuff and we saw that there was brunch available because we are big breakfast and brunch people.
Yep.
And the food, by the way, was fantastic.
Yeah. Our caterer is wonderful.
That was actually, I think, the most tension, and this is literally how there was no tension.
Okay.
But the most tension with the entire wedding planning thing was I was talking to my parents about it. Mm-hmm. And my parents are very much like traditional people in a lot of ways.
Okay.
The fact that they were very chill about all this and actually really loved it, which they did, was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. But there were a couple of times where like my mom was literally like, in a very not aggressive way, but just like, you're not really including us in the planning. And I'm like, we're not really planning. Like there's not like Becky is doing all the things. My mom's like, who the hell's Becky? I was like, I don't know. Some chick at the zoo, I guess. I don't know. I don't really. she like that. That's roughly how it went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some chick at the zoo. That's who I am.
Yeah.
That should be my new channel. Just some chick who works here.
Love to see the business cards. But so once we made the brunch decision, I was like, yo, so we're going to do a brunch buffet. And part of me was like, oh boy, I hope that's okay. And my mom was like, well, what's going to be on it? And I told her, and we had originally wanted sausage instead of bacon.
And I think that was like the only choice you had to make for the whole thing.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. That and like whether we wanted
chicken salad or tuna salad, I think.
Yeah,
the
things that
choices.
Nobody ate because we all wanted breakfast. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But and we had decided on sausage, and my mother was like, you're getting bacon, right? And I was like, no, we're going to get sausage. And she's like, I want bacon. And she was like laughing a little bit, but also I was like, okay, we'll get bacon. And she was like, cool. And so we got bacon. And that was the stress. That was the night where I was like, this is hard. Wedding planning is hard.
Oh, wow.
I'm kidding about that part. But that was literally, that was it.
That was the moment.
Yep.
That was your moment. Okay. Yep. That's not bad.
That, and at one point, as some family members got invited and such, we looked like we might crack 30 people. We might hit like 31. And that was a scary number for Zoe, who does not like to be in front of crowds.
Okay.
And but once everything started coming in, we realized like it was going to be under 30, then it was going to be fine. And everything was going to be fine.
Yeah.
But those were the two very hard moments in our.
Wow.
Yeah.
You lucked out.
Yeah. Things went well. I mean, I've always said, I truly believe that like, when you do something, especially a wedding, but anything that is a big part of your life, the more you can make it you, and the more you can focus it on you, the better off you are. And that's just what we did. And
I
we
love
literally left every other part of it out. And I'm sorry if that caused you stress.
That's fine.
But also that's your job.
It is.
And
That's why it's fine. It's
it
okay.
worked so well for us.
Good.
Like it was just, and this, my listeners know this, but this has been a very hard year.
Yeah.
Lost my grandfather. Actually right after the wedding, we said goodbye to one of the dogs that was in it. Had no idea that he was
John.
not well.
so
And on our honeymoon, it had to be
Oh,
put down.
my
Like it was right after.
God.
Yeah, no, it was, I think we were, 2 days.
that's so sad.
Which is kind of amazing that he showed no signs and made it and everything was fine.
So your
And
dogs
then-
were fine.
No, yeah, he was great.
Like
Yeah,
I
Caleb
would
was great.
never have guessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just a lot of other things. It's been
Yeah.
a very challenging year.
Yeah.
And wedding planning is one of those stressful things for a lot of people.
A lot.
And I think like had it been that, it would have been too much. Everything
yeah.
would have been too much
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
Because honestly, it almost was with that. But instead, it's just this joyous memory where, like I
Good.
said, even if I look for something bad, it's I want sausage. I want bacon. Okay, we'll have bacon. Cool.
And then
That
we're
was
done.
it. Yeah, it was
That's
great. Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's what I want to hear. Like
Yeah.
I don't wish it to be stressful.
No, right.
It
Yeah.
shouldn't be. You should have fun because
Yeah.
it's going to be one of the most important days of your life.
Yeah.
Like
And,
that's
like, even
it's a
the-
big moment.
Oh, it's a huge moment. And even the animals were awesome. Like the mountain lions did not sleep. Normally they sleep like the whole day,
Yeah.
it seems. They were jumping on their like, because
Oh,
their
so they
exhibit goes up.
provided
and stuff.
entertainment for
and,
you.
And Zian, the jaguar, was out and came right down by the glass and was jumping
Oh,
over the water.
cool.
Like it was all like they were like, yo, we got you. It was hilarious.
You couldn't have asked for anything
yeah,
better.
no,
That's
it was
great.
it was literally it was just perfect.
Good.
So I am curious in talking about animal stuff. One trend that I happen to see a lot because I spend arguably almost too much time at zoos, but is that there are a lot of people who aren't what I'd consider animal people booking animal experiences. I every time I'm at the Columbus Zoo, I go and I watch the red panda encounter. It's a great chance to see them
Cool.
even on the other side. And I'm good friends with the keeper that does it. So
Okay.
it's like always fun. And I say hi to her and such. And I can't tell you the number of times that I stand there and listen to like the pre-speech that they give the people that are going in.
Right.
And they literally don't know what red pandas are.
That's so crazy.
Right. I know. It's so crazy. And to
crazy.
be clear, it is not a cheap experience.
No, I know ours isn't.
No.
So,
Yeah. No, it is
Yeah.
very much not. And sometimes it's like a family of 4
Wow.
that don't know what red pandas are and I'm like,
Cool though.
it is cool, but it also makes me wonder like how that happens and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, do you get like non-animal people, especially with corporate
Sometimes.
events? And then what's that like for you and for the zoo in general?
Really? I mean, it's fine because they're still coming here.
Right.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll turn into, big animal people afterwards. So hope so. But I've had a couple that the zoo itself wasn't really the draw. It was more of the location into like sometimes it's corporate where they're having their meetings. Like this would be a good kind of in the middle place. But our facility's gorgeous. I mean, the zoo itself, it's always clean. It's well presented. The hall, which we typically have our events. So you got a special little thing being in the Jaguars.
Heck yeah.
But Canopy Gardens Hall is where we typically have them. It's gorgeous.
Oh, it's lovely. We've come to like Mother's Day brunches and stuff
Yes.
here. Yeah.
So that's a wonderful space. So sometimes people just look at that and they're like, oh, the layout of this room is fantastic. We'd rather, we like that look. So you want to come for that look. And our food, I mean, as you know, is also fantastic.
Honestly, shockingly so.
So good.
Like
Yeah.
normally it's not at a lot of these types
And
of
I
things.
get like people are very hesitant.
Yeah, and I
very
remember the
hesitant
first time
sometimes.
that Zoe and I were like, oh, there's a, I think it was like a Mother's Day brunch or something, and we came despite, not bringing our mothers. We just like food really and animals.
That's amazing. We're going out for Mother's Day, but we're not going to bring either of our moms, just us.
It's like we can give money to Elmwood Park Zoo and also get food and also see Slash.
That's
like,
fantastic.
come on.
That is wonderful.
But yeah, we've done that a couple of times now with different things here.
Yeah.
And like I remember the first time, like the food was awesome. So like when we saw that we could get like the brunch, it wasn't just like, oh, we like brunch.
Right.
But it was like, we like this brunch.
Yes.
I have rocked that omelet station before, and
Uh-huh.
I'm going to rock that omelet station
Yes.
at my wedding, Yeah, that really does help.
Yeah. So that alone, I mean, majority of the people that come here, it is because of the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want that, they're very passionate. But I've had a handful that's not really the attraction. It's more of just the spaces it's themselves, which is nice. So
Interesting.
I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like you said, one of the hardest things to do in conservation education is educate those that don't come to the conservation places.
Right.
And like, if you can get someone here and show them a jaguar or a red panda or whatever, then like there's more of a chance that they're going to care.
Yeah.
And then do things about it. And
So I said,
yeah,
like, I hope
think
like
it's great.
coming here and seeing it and they're like, oh, this is like, maybe we'll come back. And that's always like, if we can get you to come back and then get you to learn more about like what we do and why we do it, it's a win-win.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. That is very cool. And one of the big wins about having an event at the zoo is that you can get ambassador animals there.
Yes, you
And
can.
so we had Banshee at our wedding,
We
and
did.
Banshee is a barn owl that I've actually known from basically shortly after Banshee got here.
Cool.
Because when Banshee first got here, I was doing some interviews here.
Oh, nice.
And so Banshee was a little bit naughty when first learning.
Oh.
And when I was in there doing the interview, Banshee was supposed to go to a glove and instead landed on my arm.
Nice.
It was
okay.
very
So
special.
personal connection
Yeah.
with Banshee.
Which was why, because I know that Banshee hasn't done, and we actually found out hadn't done that yet.
No,
we
you
were
were the
Banshee's
first.
public debut, which
You
was
were.
awesome.
Yeah.
But so like, what kind of how much do you have to coordinate with the animal ambassador department, and just who do you deal with, and how does that all work?
So I work with Laura Soder, who I know you know.
Love Laura.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura. Yeah.
Her from the education department, and then Kate Olson
Okay.
from the keeper team. So they do like the scheduling for my events. So if my event does have an animal ambassador come, or if they have a giraffe feeding or something like that, those ladies will schedule the keepers or whoever is responsible for that day. So I talk to them consistently, but we get together once a month and we'll go over all of the events and talk about what animal greets we have and timing and who takes care of what and all of that good stuff. So I talk to them a lot.
That's
I
awesome.
really do, which
Good.
is cool. So like I said, I work with all of the departments here, which is just so cool.
Does that get stressful though? Because I know, obviously animals, first of all, never come if they don't want to. Like,
Correct.
there will be a substitution.
Yes, there
We
will.
did not know if Banshee was going to be there until Banshee showed up, although
Right.
we had talked about it and that was
Yeah,
the plan.
that's the plan.
And luckily we know that, but I also know that probably a lot of people don't understand that as well.
I go over that with everyone.
Okay, good.
So I definitely tell them, we're going to take your first choice. So if Pokey the porcupine is your first choice, we're going to make every effort to have Pokey make an appearance. But if Pokey's like, no, I don't feel like it, I don't want to come today. Okay, well, we need a backup plan. And so I ask for top 3 choices, usually. So I'll, depending on which one. So like if it's Pokey and it's a certain level, because it's all priced differently
Right,
and things
right.
like that. So I'll be like, okay, give me your top 3 animals and tell me, if Pokey doesn't want to come, what's your next favorite one? What's next in line? And thankfully, I really haven't had to go down that list. So our animals want to come to your party and they want to
Yeah.
come see everybody, which is really cool. So I don't have to go usually to that second choice.
Which, I mean, is not just very cool, but also is just a sign of like how comfortable they are.
They are. Yeah.
That's really cool and just shows how great the team does with
They-
training and making them
fantastic.
comfortable. And
Yeah, they really do.
And it is awesome here. I've been in the behind the scenes ambassador area
Mm-hmm.
and the ambassador bird area and stuff, and it's all top notch and beautiful
Yeah.
and wonderful.
And it's cool to see how much they care.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I've done a couple behind the scenes, not a ton, but sometimes I get to do that, which is awesome. And you can just tell like when they're working with the animals, like they really care. Not that I wouldn't think they wouldn't care,
No,
but
right.
it's just seeing them interact with them. It's like, oh, that's how I am with my dog. Like they love them. Like it's just so sweet to see that. And yeah, it's really cool.
No, yeah. I mean, like I said, like when I first started talking to keepers, like not for the pod, but just as I traveled,
Yeah.
like I knew that they loved their animals, but was also blown away by how much they love their animals,
yeah.
which led to this podcast.
Yep.
It is amazing to see that. What was the conversation like around Banshee, particularly since Banshee had not done a public appearance?
So Banshee wasn't on our greet list, but you brought
The one thing, I had like 3 choices to make, and one of them I was like, can I have a thing that's not on
that's
here?
not listed, and I was like, I mean, I'll ask. I can't say no. So let me find out. So I asked Laura, we had our meeting. And so I waited until I was going to see her in person. I was like, hey, and I told her who you were. And she's like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, so he asked for Banshee. Like, would Banshee be up for it? And she's like, oh, I haven't. The goal was to get Banshee on the list. So she's like, yeah, like I'll start working with him more and I'll let you know, but I think it's doable. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we met again and she's like, yeah, like I've been working and Banshee's going to be good. I'm like, all right, awesome. So you were the first one and we're redoing our greet list and we're adding a bunch of animals and Banshee is now being added.
Amazing.
So thank you for that.
Yay. And not everyone at the wedding, of course, but for Zoe and I, we got to glove up and actually hold Banshee for a little bit. It was amazing. It was very cool. And it's actually really funny though. So I have a bunch of pictures of Zoe and I with Banshee and then also myself with a couple of my friends with Banshee.
Okay.
In none of the pictures are all of us looking at the photographer.
You're only looking at the owl.
I literally, the person who took, my buddy Jason was at the wedding, and the person who took the picture of Jason and I with the owl snapped like 40 photos, and in none of them am I looking at the camera.
That's very on brand for you, I feel like. So I'm not shocked.
And literally Jason is staring at the camera at all of them. So there's not one where he's looking at the owl. I know he enjoyed, meeting Banshee, but literally I just have like 40 photos.
You look at that person.
Yeah. 40 photos.
It's amazing.
Of Banshee's head in various positions, me staring at Banshee and Jason with the same frozen smile on his face.
You need to send me all of these pictures, please.
I will.
It's amazing.
It's so good.
Oh
it's so much fun. Oh man, so on brand. So very on brand. That makes me wonder. You recently got married.
I did.
Were you a bridezilla?
I don't think so. I don't think I was.
So here's a surprise. Here's your new husband to talk about. No, I'm kidding. Come on in. No, but I'm curious. So was being a wedding planner helpful for that?
No, it was horrible.
This is what I thought.
It was literally horrible. One of my best friends is also a wedding planner, and she's getting married next month. So we were kind of planning around the same times, and she asked me the other day, she's like, did you have fun planning your wedding? I said, no, it was awful. And she's like, me too. Which is this sucks. I'm like, I know, it does suck. Because we look at it from a completely different angle than how anybody else is going to look at it. So we know what should happen and what it should look like and our expectations for it. I know mine were, I was like, I wanted a certain look and it had to be a certain way. I sound like a bridezilla, don't I? I really do sound like it.
I was going to call you out on that.
But I wasn't I just knew what I wanted and I was like, I'm just going to do it myself.
Well, and I feel like you also know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a completely different thing, but when I'm recording a drum track, I know how to, I hear something in my head, but I also have the skills and knowledge of how to produce it. Mm-hmm. And that is very different. I think what causes people to, turn that corner is that they have a half-assed vision.
Right.
And they don't know how to achieve it. But they want it, but they don't really know what it is and they don't know how to make it happen. And I still don't know what I would have done. If you guys didn't do everything, that was part of the.
And that's where a lot of couples will be like, oh, I'm going to have the maid of honor, handle this, or my bridesmaids can take care of this. And I was like, I'm just going to do it all myself. Cause I know how I want it to be done. And I'm not, because I'm in my friend's wedding and I keep asking her, do you need me for anything? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, when you do, let me know. We're very just we know what we want. But it makes it worse. It makes it so much worse. Much worse to plan.
Did you guys have centerpieces?
Oh, we did.
See,
so I had centerpieces. Because I had a wedding, 5 years ago, and they had all of these gorgeous glass candle holders, and they didn't want them. They were like, we're just going to throw them out. Do you guys?
Gosh.
And I was like, I want them, please. There's 12 sets of them. And I knew my wedding was going to be small.
Right.
So I had 60 people.
Okay.
And I was like, I want them. Don't throw them away. So they've been in my house for 5 years. My husband was not pleased when I brought tubs of those home. But we use them for the centerpieces. So I was thrifty in that way, as my father would say. I'm very thrifty when it comes to stuff like that. But yes, I had centerpieces, and I knew exactly what I wanted for my centerpieces.
Very tricky. I'm impressed. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Is there anything else that you want to tell me, like, about your job or anything?
Can't think of anything, really.
Okay, cool. Well, then it's time to talk about conservation for a second.
Yeah.
So do you want to give a shout out to a conservation organization?
So there is an organization that I do want to give a shout out to. It's called the Ocean Cleanup. They're a nonprofit organization, and they are working to remove plastic from our oceans. They're working on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which has 80 tons of plastic. And so far, they have cleaned 1 million kilograms.
Wow.
So they're working hard.
That's
so definitely
awesome.
Give a shout out to them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then it is time, and I don't even know if you have one of these, but it's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show, but there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story. Other than maybe having a groom poop the bed at the wedding, do you have any poop stories?
Poop story. So I don't have an animal poop story.
Poop story.
Oh God.
Which I'm not that upset about, to be honest.
Fair.
So I don't have an animal poop story.
Poop story.
But I do have a person poop story.
Poop story.
Okay, let's do the thing.
So I have a person poop story.
Poop story.
So I told you I worked at a hotel prior to working at the zoo. And one of the events there, I think it was a family reunion. And they had a dinner, and then they had stayed over at the hotel. And the next morning, housekeeping went to clean one of the rooms from this event, and there was poop everywhere. The housekeepers came down to their supervisor, and they're like, we're not cleaning this room. The supervisor's like, what do you mean you're not cleaning the room? Why? And they're like, we're not cleaning this. So the supervisor went up and was like, nope, we're not cleaning this. It was carpet, walls, ceiling, drapes, bedding. The whole room was just covered in poop. And it was such, I mean, that's a shame to happen regardless. Yeah. But they had just gone under a renovation.
Oh no.
Like literally the rooms were a week old. Just gone under a huge renovation. So it was all new bedding, all new everything. And it was so bad, they had to hire a company to come in and clean the room. They had to discard all of the new bedding and the drapes and so that was rough. That was a rough one.
And that is when the hotel learned that you should not rent rooms to gorillas, chimpanzees, or bonobos.
Yeah, it was like, what happened? Like, are they okay? Like, are they all right? It's crazy. So that is my poop story.
Poop story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just walking into a room covered in it.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This has been a blast.
Yes, this is so much fun. Thanks for having me. This is really cool. It's my first podcast.
Woo!
So much fun.
Yay. Thanks. And there you have it, folks. I would like to say thank you, and also I'm sorry to Becky. Thank you for being on the podcast, and I'm sorry for all of the agita that Zoe and I caused. But yeah, I hope that not only gave you some cool insight into what somebody in Becky's position does at a zoo, but also just a little more insight to your buddy John. Yeah, that one was a lot of fun for me. I'm sure you could tell. Friendly reminder from the top of the episode that if you are a patron, you can go and listen to bonus audio from this episode. Very exciting stuff. And you can do that for as little as $3 a month. Patreon.com/Rossifari. And remember, friends, the words wedding credits backwards are Steiderk Gnaidu. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Vesley Gross. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossafari or by email at rossafaripod@gmail.com. Rossafari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.